Hi, Todd Martin here. In this walking code video, we're going to switch it up a little bit and work on an exercise for leg strengthening. But at the same time, we're going to demonstrate how the core is so vital and necessary to perform these exercises safely and effectively. The exercise we're going to work on is the forward lunge. This is a great exercise for strengthening of the glutes, strengthening of the quads, and strengthening of the hamstrings, but it also can be an exercise that is challenging because it can cause knee pain if it's not performed correctly. The benefit of the walking code, which is a part of an overall movement system that teaches how to move the core properly or to move from the core properly, is that it can show you how to perform these sort of exercises correctly. The core and how we use it determines what happens with our legs, even though often we can't see what is happening with the core. By using specific rules that are derived from Tai Chi, the walking code and the quantum movement system can show you how to perform exercises more safely and effectively. In this case, as I said, we're going to work on the forward lunge. In the forward lunge, we start with our feet slightly apart. I'm going to put my hands on my waist, and we're going to step forward and drop into a lunge and come back to the original position. I'll show from the side view. We step forward, we lunge straight down, we come back up and push back to the original position. One of the challenges and even the controversies in the forward lunge is where should the knee position be when you drop down and lower the body. Most commonly, the knee position is recommended to be vertical, just over your ankle. The knee is recommended not to be out over the toes because that can cause a strain in the knee and cause pain. So the question is, how do we lower the body in a way that keeps the knee lined up over the ankle rather than having the knee move farther forward over the toes and potentially cause knee pain? Well, that is done with the core, even though you can't see the core moving. Let me demonstrate the exercise again. And generally how it's taught is to step forward, and taking a big step forward is usually what's told, and then lowering the body straight down and then coming back up. And you can repeat this, lowering and coming back up, lowering and coming back up. But the question is, what are we doing to lower the body? We would assume, and probably most people do assume, that this is a leg activity, lowering the body. And so it's hard to figure out how we do that correctly. But what I would say is that the lowering, even though the legs are working, what causes you to drop and then come back up is all to do with what is happening in the core. For those of you who are already familiar with the walking code and its terminology, I'm going to show you how we do a forward lunge correctly. We start in our standing position, and I'm going to change weight to my right leg using the core technique of set. The core techniques describe the direction of rotation of my thoracic spine, my lumbar spine, and then the action of my hip joints. So in set, I am flexing my left hip, I'm rotating my upper torso forward and counterclockwise, and I'm rotating my lower torso backwards and clockwise. This roots my weight now over my right leg. That's the core technique of set. Now what I do to shift my weight forward and step forward onto the heel is to use the core technique of push. In push, I'm going to extend my right hip while continuing to turn my upper torso forward on the right and continue to tuck on the right. This is going to push my weight forward until my heel places on the ground. If I keep pushing, it's going to pitch my body forward at this point as the toes of my left foot come down to the ground. When I want to actually do a forward lunge correctly, what I need to do is, following the push action, I need to change this core technique to a core technique I call reach, where I change direction of the thoracic spine and lumbar spine rotation from the right side of my body, where the right side is turning to the left and the right lower torso is turning to the right, and I switch at the point of heel contact to the left side turning right with the upper torso and the left side of the lower torso turning back and to the left. That is what's going to take me from this position to this position. And to come back up, I change the core rotation back to the other side. So I have torsional rotation on the right in this position, which is upper torso turning counterclockwise, lower torso turning clockwise. To drop, I change it to torsional rotation on the left, and I can switch back and forth. During this whole movement, I am extending my right hip. I don't stop extending my right hip during this entire dropping and coming back up. So my hip action is the same. I'm just switching like I'm sawing. I'm switching my core rotation from right side to left side to left side, right side, and then to come back up, I'm going to change my hip action to extension of the left hip, and I'm going to push my weight back, continuing the root on the right, and I'm going to turn my upper torso on the left clockwise to get back, and then I'm going to lift myself back up. So there's actually multiple stages in the core techniques of the forward lunge when done properly. I'm going from a standing position, which is lift, if you know the core techniques, to set left, push right, reach right, push right, now reach back left, and retreat right. When I begin the forward lunge, I'm going to begin with my feet either together or just slightly apart. That doesn't really matter so much. But the key is I have to change my weight before stepping forward. Some people might think that if my feet are here, I can just simply step forward and go into the lunge. But you really need to change weight so your core and your spine are lined up over your standing leg before you push forward and then drop. If I'm here with my spine in between the two legs as I go and I try to drop, this is going to tend to make the knees come inwards as I go down, and that's going to put strain on the inside of my knees. So I need my spine lined up properly. This also makes my push forward land in the right position, not too far back and not too far forward, so I can lower properly and then come back up. From the side view, during the change of weight, you notice there's a slight shift of my weight towards the ball of my right foot, and then I push forward and then complete the lunge. Notice the vertical position of the knee over the ankle. I come back up to this position, and then I come back. So once again, change weight, shifting the weight forward to the ball of the foot, then I push forward and change the core rotation at the time my heel lands, and I change my core rotation again to come up. I can keep going back and forth, changing the core to the left side, core to the right side, core to the left side, core to the right side, and then I push back up. Now I'm going to show you how to use the core incorrectly and how it affects the result of your forward lunge. So one thing I can do is I can shift weight backwards towards my heel by turning my upper torso towards the standing leg as I shift weight. It's completely invisible, but when I use this core technique, I shift my weight to the heel rather than shifting my weight to the ball. Then when I step forward, I'm not in the right position. I've taken a short step and I can't really go down properly. I'm kind of stuck in a frozen position. I'm going to show you again. Now when I'm changing weight, this is so subtle, but you can see my weight is back on my heel, not forward on the ball. That is because of the rotation of the core. I have rotated the core clockwise, which has shifted my weight back to the heel. Now when I push forward, I'm not in a position to lunge straight down. I have too short of a step, and if I really try to force the step, my knee is going to go too far forward. When I lunge properly, I shift my weight to the ball, then step forward, and I have plenty of room to drop correctly. The other part of this movement that can be done incorrectly comes after the heel placement. If I change weight correctly towards the ball, I step correctly, but then I keep pushing without dropping until my toes hit the ground. Now you see my body is out of alignment in a forward lean. And if I try to go down here, even if I go down correctly, now you see my knee has come very far forward over the toes, and you can start getting pressure in the knee. So let me show you again. I start correctly by shifting my weight to the ball. I push forward to step, but I keep pushing until my toes hit the ground, and now I'm in a forward lean, pelvis is pitched forward, and when I try to go down, my knee is going to be very far forward. Then I try to come back. So the result of having the knee far forward in the step has not much to do with what's going on in the legs. It has everything to do with what's going on in the timing of the core. I need to drop and change my core rotation at the moment of heel contact before the toes come down to the ground. Now I can come back to this position and step back. The next part of the motion where we need to be clear is when we push our weight back. Some people will demonstrate just pushing back from here where you can get stuck. And that's because you haven't really gone through each phase of the movement. There's actually the dropping. I need to come back to this position. The same position that if I was to keep doing this exercise over and over, I would get to here. This is where I can push my weight back smoothly without having to force it. I don't want to try to push my weight back from this lowered position. I could get my weight back somehow, but I had to pitch my body back to try to throw my spine to make it happen. If you want to have it happen with proper alignment, you come back up to this position, and then you can do it almost effortlessly. Now maybe you don't want to do things effortlessly when you're trying to work out, but you really need to keep the alignment there, and you can add extra weights in your hand if you want to make the work harder, but keeping proper alignment. If you find this interesting, I'd highly recommend signing up for the walking code course and or the Tai Chi code course. You can learn the core techniques that show how the core motions of the abdominal and thoracic spine rotation combined with the actions of your hip joints produce whole body movement. This is the fundamental theory behind Tai Chi. But I find that the importance of the core in controlling the movements of the legs is essentially ignored almost everywhere else outside of Tai Chi. We never hear people talk about what to do with the core when doing an exercise like a forward lunge or even an exercise like walking. nobody explains how the core acts with these sort of movements because it's really invisible. So if you don't understand the system involved behind it, you won't be able to really understand the explanation. These core movements are all learned in the walking code and the Tai Chi code, and I'm extrapolating that same knowledge into other fitness exercises that you can do using the core correctly to guide your exercise practice.